This calls to order the Cohasset Affordable Housing Trust meeting, regularly scheduled for today, November 8th, 2023. We will call the meeting to order by way of a roll call. Rob Jeffers.
Rob Jeffers here.
Okay. Rob Henry.
Rob Henry here.
Paul Grady.
Paul Grady present.
Okay. Where did you go? There we are. Ted Carr.
Present.
Cindy Matheson.
Present.
Steve Gomer also present. The chair also recognizes that our counsel, Karis North, is in the audience.
Good morning.
Morning.
Karis.
And not present for the meeting is David Pfeiffer. Let the minutes record that. And while we have a moment, I'd like to formally recognize the newly appointed select board representative to the trust. That's Paul Grady. Paul, welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.
You poor bastards. How did you draw the short straw? That's what I want to know.
I don't know, Steve. I don't know.
All right. So we have a relatively compact agenda for this morning, but before we get going, Cassandra, is there public comment?
There is not.
Okay, super. First item on the agenda is a financial update. And for that, I believe Rob Jeffers, I'm going to turn this back to you for any update you might, for the members recalling our last meeting, we had a presentation from the folks who invest the trust. And there was clearly some lack of communication over actually the past 4 years between the town and our financial advisors as to what we could invest in. And I believe, Rob, you and David were going to reinitiate the conversation with Bartholomew and determine what the trust options were, both for investment and for asset allocation, such that we would have some amount of capital, available and liquid. So, fire away.
Sure. Yep. So what we did is we reviewed the statements that they had presented to us. We looked at what we were invested in. And looked at, kind of where we stand. What we'd be looking to do as a next step is to get the go-ahead from the broader trust to meet with Bartholomew and make some changes. The changes that we would suggest are as follows. One is to exit out of the individual securities. They were investing in individual stocks because that's what they thought they had to invest. We think a much more efficient and appropriate investment for our needs is index funds, so low, very low fee, basic indexes. We're not trying to run a portfolio here and beat the market. We're going to be very happy with the market. Also, we think that we would talk with the Bartholomew, but we're thinking based on our time horizon and using, we want to be able to use the money that, something in the neighborhood of the 60-40, 60% fixed income, 40%, stocks would make more sense because there's a better chance that we'll take things out. Also taking into account that we can earn close to 5%, on any sort of, fixed income. That's actually a pretty good return for what we're looking to do. This isn't, it's meant to, I think, keep up with inflation. If we can beat inflation, and grow a little bit more, that's great. But this isn't a risk-taking portfolio. So, I'd put that out there. If the rest of the trust is okay with it, myself, David, we would meet with Bartholomew. We would have to post that as a public meeting, but we would have this discussion with them. And if you give us the authority to make the changes, that would be awesome.
So. Thank you for the update, Rob. Comments from trust members?
Thank you for taking the time to do that. It certainly makes really good sense for what we're doing.
I would agree. Thanks, Rob.
Okay. Paul Grady?
No, I'd say thank you very much. I'm getting my feet wet, so I'm
okay. All right. Rob Henry?
No, I agree. I'm glad we're starting to get our arms around this.
Okay, so just to summarize for the trust members, you may recall that Bartholomew made the point that they were investing according to the legal list. The legal list is actually a state mandated or state directed list of suitable investments for municipalities. Back in 2019, the town of Cohasset petitioned the state to be able to invest according to fiduciary standard, which is more typical of what one would find, especially with respect to a trust. The home rule petition was approved at the legislature, freeing us to do this. Somewhere along the line, that communication never went from the town to the investment advisor, and so we found ourselves invested in individual securities, as Rob was pointing out, as opposed to the ability to invest in a much wider range of securities that could give us a very well fine-tuned asset allocation. My only comment, Rob, on this is I believe before we go directing investment structures, I would prefer that we had an investment policy statement for the trust.
I can draft one up to you and then circulate that, and if we can review that at the next meeting.
If you would, I'm not attempting to delay the conversation with Bartholomew, but I think it would protect both us and them. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I can leverage what we have. As you know, I work in a financial firm that has lots of trusts, and we have lots of investment policy statements. So I think we can craft something that makes sense. And as you mentioned, we've been invested in this for 4 years. 4 years and 1 month ain't going to make that much of a difference. So
Right.
It's fine.
Right. Okay, good. Well, I thank you very much. You and David have done yeoman work. I appreciate that. If you would pull together a recommended draft of an investment policy statement, if you would circulate it through Cassandra so we can all review it. We can make our individual comments back to Cassandra, who can consolidate them for Rob, so that Rob is prepared for this next meeting. We can move forward. Okay.
Can I just ask?
Yes.
Let's include Karis on that just to make sure.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then Karis, any thoughts? This seems very appropriate, but from a legal perspective, any issues we should be aware of making a move like this?
No, this is consistent with the prudent investor rule, and I think the concept of having a policy first makes a lot of sense from a liability perspective for you and Bartholomew, as Steve and Rob already said. So all good from me.
That sounds great. Thanks.
Okay. Super. If that's the case, then let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is an update from the Affordable Housing Steering Committee. And is Paul with us, Cassandra?
Paul is not here.
Okay, I guess we don't have an update from the steering committee. I'll use this opportunity to simply give an update on a brief conversation I had last night. I was approached by someone in town who's involved in real estate, pointing out that frankly, I've forgotten the address, the South Main Street address where Hajj has been. That particular entity had an interest in entering into discussions to buying the existing location. Apparently, Paul, you may know more about this, but I believe the permitting has been approved on that.
The last I heard, Steve, on that one is it was up in gray area. I thought for the building that was approved by planning at some point in time that the financing had fell through. So that's the last I've heard.
Right. That part I heard, the financing had fallen through, but I think the permitting from planning was completed.
I believe it was.
Okay.
They changed a couple of the iterations. So to answer your question, I believe it was.
Okay. Well, that's the person who approached us had approached me essentially asking if the trust would have interest in working with them in putting together a proposal to potentially buy that project. Now, having said that, Nothing more has come forward. I do not want to say any more about it because it's a potential real estate transaction, even though it's entirely speculative at the moment. Any further conversation about this would probably need to take place in executive session. But I bring it up because at the moment, as Paul just pointed out, the project itself is stalled. And I suspect we may see much more of this around the Commonwealth over the next couple of years as interest rates remain, stubbornly high. The point is, though, it does potentially open up some opportunities for the trust to be much more active. Cindy Matheson, see your hand up.
Just to confirm, I think in that project, there were 3 units in total and 1 that would be affordable.
Right, and the result is that made all 3
Right.
affordable.
So they were all rental units. They weren't condos.
I believe that was the case. Paul, do you recall? Paul Green?
I think we're on the same page. I believe they were gonna be rental units.
Yeah. Actually, Cassandra, you're right there,
Just to confirm, they were rental units to start with, as long as that doesn't change if someone wants to develop it moving forward.
Right.
So yes, the intent was that if the units were to be on site, that all of them would count. But the way that the decision was written was that they have the option to go off site initially. And then if they were not able to find an appropriate location off site, that they would be on site.
Okay. Anyway, thank you. That concludes my my one comment. As I said, if the conversation on this particular property should flourish, then our next conversations on it in all likelihood would be an executive session. Okay. Another item on the agenda is for CPC representative briefing, but I don't see anyone in the audience there as well. Is that Cassandra? Am I missing something?
Well, actually,
Everybody's
Steve,
here,
I'm on CPC as well, if you wanted to hear anything.
Oh, isn't that convenient? All right.
Is that something?
I am not sure what the briefing might be, but go ahead.
I don't have one really for you.
Okay.
I can just
No,
fill you in a little bit.
I'm not going to hold you on the hot seat.
I mean, no, it's an open meeting last night. The select board meeting is that, in regards to town hall, is the board did listen, and it might be CPC will not be right now, as far as I know, contributing to, the proposed town hall project, which is okay because we understood that there were restrictions, and with a project of this scope, which is new and untried, we really hope it works, and I think it can. That it might be something to revisit down the road, and maybe working more in conjunction with affordable housing, and seeing what the best path forward was. But as it is, we're just going to be presenting, and it'll be on the warrant, but not the warrant is already out, so we had made some changes, and so we will be working with all of you, we hope. And I'm coming from CPC and select board, so I apologize for mixing the two.
That's okay. It's okay.
But
we appreciate the update.
So we just hope we have the support and we get this thing going, and down the road, we hope it's a success, and we hope we can all work together and make this place just everything viable and everything work the way it's supposed to, I hope.
Okay, now listen, that was the CPC briefing. We're going to bring this up again in the last topic here, 1 Pleasant Street.
You might. I'm sorry. I didn't see the agenda, Steve, so I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'm getting my feet wet in the Affordable Housing Committee.
That's quite all right. Thank you very much for that, Paul. We probably will revisit the rest of that conversation in just a few minutes. I'm going to move on now to updates on 43 Elm Unit 2. Paul, this may or may not be.
Sorry to bother you. Cindy's got her hand up, Steve.
Oh, I'm sorry, Cindy. Go ahead.
Just a quick comment about in a number of the seminars put out by the Mass Housing Partnership was strongly recommending cross participation between places like committees like CPC, Affordable Housing Steering Committee, that we had representatives on each other's boards to facilitate the kind of communication and cooperation that we're hoping to do, especially if it leads forward into managing projects and such. So I was just going to say thanks for including a CPC rep on in our scheduled meetings up beyond just our affordable housing steering committee partners.
Okay, thank you. All right, can we move on to 43 Elm?
Yeah, we can, if you want me to speak.
Yeah, Paul, I'm sorry, Rob, hang on just a second. Just as a fill-in for Paul Grady, 43 Elm Street was an owned deeded affordable property, or is, I should say. Unit 2 is on the second floor. We had the opportunity to buy the property about 6.5 months ago, 7 months ago, I think it was. It needed a relatively thorough renovation. Rob Henry, along with Ted Carr, have been spearheading actually getting that renovation underway so that we can turn around and resell the property. Rob Henry, go ahead.
All right, thanks, Steve. It is moving ahead. The Richard Jones Painting / Home Improvement Company is the contractor that's been approved to do the work. He's already started doing some of it. I mean, it's basically, as I've said before, it's more of a cosmetic thing. There's going to be a couple of major things, cabinets, some new counters, but a lot of it's just clean up, patch and paste and paint, and make the objective here is to make it presentable for sale. The people on the first floor are owners, and I'm not sure. This is, they digress a second here, but do we know if this is also considered an affordable unit, or they've been there so long now that it would not be considered affordable?
Now, Unit 1 is not deed restricted.
Okay. So anyway, Ted and I, we've been talking with the couple things. We don't have to take a lot of time here at the meeting, but there were a few administrative problems with this contractor in terms of, how he's going to get paid, and did he get a deposit, on the things he was buying up front, which of course I met with Cassandra, and that's just not allowed in the terms of the town and how they operate. It's a state thing. And so we're going to get some things through Lowe's that we can get that he specified and so forth. So I think it's moving along. This guy's a very determined individual working. I wouldn't be surprised if his work is done by the next meeting. So Ted, you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, no, I would agree. I have not seen it. But so I understand. So if any of you will recall, the unit was in terrible disrepair. So first we had to gut everything. We had to clean it, basic cleaning. Richard's gone through and cleaned everything again, patched all the holes, everything cosmetic. And then I understand a significant amount of the base coat painting has also been done. We'll check in on that. But yeah, I would agree with Rob. Things are moving along nicely there. We'll probably have a first invoice from him. I think he's been in there for most of a week or something. So we'll work with him on that and get that filed with Cassandra. Go ahead, Cassandra.
I was just going to make note that I have not received a W-9 from him yet, which I would need in order to do any of processing of any invoices. So if you could get that to me as soon as possible, that way there's no hiccups in the process.
Okay, it's too bad he hasn't done that, because I did send that to him. I think you emailed to me and I forwarded it to him. So
yeah, I'm sure you did. But so if somebody could just follow up with him.
Yeah. Rob, why don't I put that one on my list and I'll get that back to Cassandra.
Okay, because you only got today, right, to do this?
Yeah, but I'm going to try to get a lot of this done today before I have to take off.
Okay. All right. Well, just Ted, why don't you give me a call?
Yep.
Sometime this afternoon. Just give me an update, what's still hanging and so forth, so we'll be coordinated.
You got it. Sounds good.
So if things proceed according to Rob's estimate, and work is completed within the next 30 days, what that means is, so that the trust is aware of this, what that means is new flooring in about 2/3 of the unit, refinished flooring in the other third, which is hardwood. Wall repair and painting, and by God, it really needed it. And then an entirely reapplianced kitchen, with the exception of what was a new refrigerator already.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that,
Counters, cabinets,
yes, no,
you know,
thank you.
all
Thank you,
all the radiators had to be fixed. All the baseboard radiators all the covers were off and all that. It's like somebody went through and destroyed everything.
Yeah. So at that point, I believe the plan is to turn to the steering committee, who has the greater level of experience on getting a unit such as this into the hands of a property manager for listing and occupancy. All right. I believe, I could be wrong about this, but I believe that we'll be limited on the total asking price that we can put this out for. I want to say it's $210,000, but it may be more than that. And Paul Kearson does have some data on that. So we would have bought the unit for 106, I believe it was. This is approximately $45,000 in improvements, and then there's a separate. Rob, how much was demo?
The demo was, I think, about $5,000.
So, you know, 156 into it. If we actually are able to sell it for 210, which would shock me if we didn't. Then
I think the numbers were like 210 to 250, somewhere near. I don't think it's never been one number.
if I'm lowballing it, it's just to keep the expectations modest.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I see Karis has taken herself off of mute. She may know the number.
Yeah, I don't know the number. I was going to say that I take a look at the deed restriction and figure out the number, if that would be helpful.
It would be helpful, Karis. Thank you.
I'll work on that for next meeting.
Okay,
Thank you.
much appreciated. But long and short of it is, we hopefully will be able to turn this around and list it as early as mid-December. No, I take it back. I'm sorry, mid-January.
Yeah, let me just flag one thing. So I think all of that is correct. We do have to place an order with Lowe's that we won't know until the order is placed like there's all new kitchen cabinets and stuff. So
Right.
some of we are proceeding, I would say we are proceeding very nicely at this point to make sure we get it done in a timely way. As soon as we place the order, some of the bigger items we need, we'll circle back with everybody and we can have a better understanding of exactly when the work can be done.
Okay, so a couple of things to keep in mind is that with this as well is that we have a related item coming up on the agenda in just a few minutes with respect to condo association fees. We'll get to that, but keep in mind that this is part of a condominium association. Interestingly enough, the association, I think, is run by South Shore Habitat.
Yeah, it is.
And long and short of it is that we do have some back invoices on that, so we need to those need to be addressed. Anything else on 43 Elm?
Just briefly, because sorry, go ahead, Rob.
You want me to talk? I
Yeah,
can't
Rob.
stand this. I have to do this on the phone because I can't see anybody. I'm just adding to this that there is, related to the so-called condo association, there might be some additional outside work be done, but not necessarily affecting the sale per se, but just things. This is according to I met, a couple months ago, I met with the homeowner below. It just was a very difficult thing to do anything with the former owner. They were completely uncooperative and so forth. I won't get into all that, but there might be some so I don't know what the balance is in the condo association, with Habitat, whether they have a reserve or not to do any work that might have to be done. I think there's a problem with one of the gutters, something like that, but I'm not sure how we have to do that, or it should be the condo association. So we
Um,
might have to.
it's, Rob, you bring up a good point, and, Karis, I love to keep you employed. Would you look into the documentation here? Because it just,
Yes,
it seems a little convoluted that the association itself would have as a manager, but not as a property manager, an unrelated third party. And and additionally, there is an element of this building that's actually owned by the town of Cohasset. Yeah, in the basement. So,
you could,
go ahead,
yeah,
Karen.
well, I'll take a look. And Cassandra had her hand up. She may have some helpful facts.
Cassandra?
I was just going to say that recently I did talk to Beth Lyons in regards to the condo association fees, and she did mention that, as Rob was saying, the fees are to specifically do repairs to the outside of the units. So whether that be, tree related or gutter related or whatever the case may be, that is the purpose of the association fees.
But if we're going to expend that, right, if the money is going to be expended on the association, and we currently, as the owner of the unit, are being asked to spend it, I would imagine we would have that would have been a request as opposed to a demand.
A request for repairs or a request for the
Yeah, I mean, the condo association would have to approve the expense. In other words, lifting the freight on their own. The association is just to unit owners, one of which is us.
right. So I haven't gotten any requests for any repairs. So if Rob had a conversation with the other unit owner and they mention repairs, I'm not sure that they've mentioned that to South Shore Habitat.
Right, and that's where I'm coming at this from. If South Shore Habitat is coming back to us and asking for additional funds for HOA fees, essentially for exterior repairs, I just want to make sure that this is being managed and directed properly, right? Because
Right, and also the cost split between the two units.
So, well, it would be split between the two units, Rob, but it's why I was asking Karis to look into this. So,
Yeah, I'll take a look at
That's a good idea.
I'll take a look at the condo association documents and also the restriction, because I'm wondering if there's a state, instead of a deed restriction, if there's a state affordable housing restriction on this parcel, and South Shore Habitat is the holder of that restriction. But I'm just guessing. I'll have to take a look at the legal documents, and we'll get those pulled, and I'll take a look at them.
In addition, Karis, if that were to be the case, what options exist for consolidating the overall administration of the property?
Yeah, it'll be whatever's laid out. If there's a affordable housing restriction, that should lay that out, but I'll have to see what the documents say. But
Okay.
got it.
Yeah.
Just one
Could I
other
say
thought
one more
on
thing?
this that
Oh.
sorry, Rob, let me just get this thought out.
Sure.
Cassandra,
Yeah,
I don't
sure.
know if you can talk to Michelle about doing any of these sort of equipment pieces by purchase order, where perhaps the town issues a purchase order to Lowe's or whoever, where they will essentially pay for the some of the materials and equipment directly. Sometimes that's a way to get past the town, under state law, you can't pay until the services are performed or the materials are provided. So I'm not sure what Cohasset's policy is and what they use purchase orders for or not, but that might be worth a quick conversation with Michelle if that can sort of help take some of the burden off your contractor.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, if there's I know Ted mentioned, I don't know, cabinets or a fridge or whatever the case may be. If it's a product that can be purchased from Lowe's, I can certainly look into that.
That would be wonderful.
Thank you. And
The thing,
Rob, go ahead.
the other thing, I think in terms of just getting this all ready for sale, and with the first floor homeowner being there, I think we Karis, when you're looking into this thing with Habitat, I think it's incumbent upon the first floor family to say what they think needs to be done that they already know and look into, so that we're not trying to do that from our standpoint of owning the second floor. So in other words, what is there? What's being done? Because it's I think Cassandra, you said that we haven't heard anything from the Habitat about needing work outside. It was what I know there is some things to do, but I don't have a list either. But because the tenants, the owner and the first floor, they've been there for 20 years. They're pretty familiar with the building.
So is there a question, Rob?
Yeah, that we should look into, along with this, the thing that Karen's going to do is to see if there's any documentation what needs to be done. I mean, I heard gutters,
Oh, yeah,
and so forth. Just so we have a handle on, what potential expense that we might have to incur.
okay. I think Karis will probably be pretty comprehensive in her approach. So
Yeah, no, I'm sure she will. I just wanted to be thinking of that particular issue, since there are repairs necessary, but we don't really know. And has the homeowner on the first floor made a point of it within this condo association?
yeah, okay. Yeah, Karis, just to add to the punch list, if you're beyond just reviewing the documents, or actually, let me ask it differently. Cassandra, if you would communicate with Habitat on this particular property and ask if there is estimates for exterior work that for which the association would be responsible.
Yeah, I can reach out to Habitat and see if they have a list of repairs or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
Yeah. And do we know what the condo fee is? I don't.
Yes, so that is part of the administrative part of your agenda.
Okay.
We could
Very
skip to that now if you wanted, or
No, we can't.
do it later.
Not going to do it. We're going to
Okay.
get to that. We're going to get to that when it comes up.
No problem.
Keep the train running. All right. Are we done with this for the moment? That is to say, 43 Elm Street.
Yes.
All trust members in agreement?
Yep, perfect.
Okay. Hearing no objection, we'll move on. Ted, can you give us a brief overview of the MassDOT property on 3A?
Yeah, so behind the medical building adjacent to the Hingham Lumber, there's a road that goes up the hill. There's a sports area up there that has soccer fields. Everybody familiar with what I'm talking? Okay, so on that road,
Let the record show that you're referring to Crocker Lane.
Crocker Lane. Okay. So about halfway up on the left-hand side, the state has had a parcel of land there that has been on the surplus land list for the state of Massachusetts for a while. And I was curious to see what the town might be thinking about doing with that, because I had also heard that maybe the town may not want to do anything with that. And so then my question was, it would be great to sort of find out what to do, but it strikes me that it might be a good parcel to maybe work with the steering committee and us to see if it might be something we could do with some housing affordability up there. And I wanted to bring it forward to the group. For some time, it's been used for storage by state things. When they redid the Saltonstall Bridge, a lot of the ornamental stuff was stored up there. There's some light activity, but for the most part, I've noticed it's been on the state surplus list for some time, and just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention. It's quite a large parcel as well, and relatively close to the commuter rail and so forth. So just wanted to bring it up as an issue and sort of see if anybody knew anything real from the town on what their thoughts were there, and just bring it up as an issue.
As an item for opportunity, it's attractive. I'd say if we can do some background work initially, and Cassandra, now I'm talking to you. Could we take a look at the zoning maps, find out what the area is zoned now, whether or not those restrictions would prohibit the potential for housing. I actually think the initiative to do public transportation centric housing might actually work in favor on a parcel here. But can you do some background work with that, Cassandra, and see what we got?
Yes.
But my own personal feeling is, yeah, I think we should draw in the steering committee and ask them for their input, for their vision on this sort of thing.
And I sort of preface that by saying, if there's some designs on that by the town already, meaning they've got some thoughts on it, it'd just be great to know what that might be. But again, these are harder to find, and I think we're on, and the last time the town looked at sort of surplus land around here, we took on 2 parcels. We're doing what we should be doing with them, and might be just worth a little due diligence.
Comments from the trust?
I agree.
Cindy?
Cindy?
I'm curious, I don't know where it stands with the town demand for, if you have the MBTA stopping in your town, that there were something like 750 units that the state was going to require every MBTA community to provide. Would this potentially lead towards alleviating some of the demands on the town from the state in that regard, even though it's across the street? I don't know how close it has to be to the T station or the commuter rail to qualify.
Harris, would you mind giving some clarity to us on that?
Yeah, and I saw Cassandra had her hand raised as well.
I'm sorry.
So MBTA zoning requirements is a requirement to provide zoning, not units. And for Cohasset, the deadline isn't to provide the zoning isn't until the end of next year. And I don't know where Cohasset is on looking at that. Cassandra may have some updated information, but generally in terms of the area, if it's state-owned property, that's excluded anyway. It wouldn't count. So the ownership of that parcel would have to change for it to be counted under the MBTA zoning.
Okay. And Cassandra?
I was just going to mention to Cindy's comment that the MBTA guidelines that we are working towards compliance with is set to be discussed at the zoning bylaw committee meeting tonight. And there's going to be a presentation on our draft zoning. It's a first draft, so it may change from tonight's discussion. But obviously, if any of you are interested, I would recommend attending, or at the very least, watching the recording if you're unable to attend.
Okay.
Great. And Cassandra, do you know if this parcel has been reviewed by this committee that is meeting tonight?
So I have, if you would like, I could screen share it. I have a zoomed in, like highlighted area of where they're presently looking at.
Go ahead.
Let me. This is where they're looking at. I can zoom this in a little bit. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ted, that you're talking about this area over here.
Yes. So Crocker Lane, right. So
Crocker Lane is over here.
Okay. Yep. So up there, it looks like a little dog leg to the right there. I think that's the state land there. It's the little cutout around the brown. Yeah. Not the whole thing where the buildings are, but I think that there is if you come up Crocker Lane, where the word Crocker Lane is, and then it's the highlighted portion in white, I think that area, no, next one over, just to the right a little bit the other way. What does that say right there?
It's just an outline of a building. This says
Okay.
Crocker Lane, but this is just an outline of a building.
I think that's the track you're talking about.
I think that's the track, yeah. And I had heard, and I don't know, we should confirm the size of it, but it could be close to 20 acres up there. because I think it goes long and then uphill a little bit more. But again, can anybody listen in or will they record the meeting, Cassandra?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
then
so
I'll
the
let-
meeting
I'll
is recording. So if you want to watch it later when you're back.
That sounds great. Yeah, so I'll plan to watch it. But if anybody is bored and has trouble sleeping at night, would like to listen to the zoning committee and their fine work, feel free to join
All
in.
right. So let's get the inquiry started.
Yeah.
What would Ted, not that I don't respect your wealth of knowledge in this area, but I'm going to turn back to Karis. Karis, what would be the broad outlines of a process to ask the state for that property?
Yeah, I would have to take a look at the state disposition of surplus land. They've got to have a policy or a process. And I'm not sure where you go to ask them. If they've declared it surplus, then it should be available, but I'd have to take a look at whatever their policy or process is.
Okay. By the way, I'm just going to interject here for just a second. Rob Jeffers has to leave us. He's got his boarding call for the airplane. So Rob, take care. If you're already gone, appreciate it. Appreciate you joining us.
And Karis, I think it's listed either at MassDOT or MBTA.
Okay.
Transportation oriented hold.
Yeah, I will have somebody take a look and do a little research, because Steve's going to keep me employed permanently.
No, the whole trust is going to do that, not just me.
Yeah, well, I know. I mean you as chair. But yeah, no, that's fine. We'll take a look and understand, because typically each agency has the ability to manage their surplus property on their own. It will have to be so, and I'm not familiar with how they handle their surplus property.
This is an interesting area, however, thinking about this from the perspective of zoning for 750 units around around a transportation hub. And it's one in which we could possibly make this approach with the support of the town, right? So just something to think about it. And so Karis is looking into a couple of different areas, but one of them is what process might be followed to request transfer of a surplus land from an agency or department of the state to a municipality, or in this case, a municipality's trust. The other area to look into, and Cassandra, we've requested of Cassandra to do that, is just to take a look at what are the zoning bylaws applicable to that lot currently. Okay. I think with that, we can get started on understanding what's in front of us a little bit more clearly than we have it at the moment, other than recognizing that there is a potential opportunity. Fair enough. I'll take the responsibility of calling Paul Kearse, talking to him about this, so that he can engage the steering committee and determine where this might fall within their interest and their priorities of projects that they want to push.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Moving along, One Pleasant Street. Paul Grady, are you still with us? Oh, I see.
I am, sir.
There you go. So this is your re-entry, Paul, now as a select board member. Can you give us a more an update from the perspective of the proponents?
I'm sorry, Steve, did you say proponents?
Proponents, the select board.
Proponents.
Right.
Well, what we're trying to do, again, we hope the building is a success if it goes through, and we hope we have support for that. Understanding CPC, that's just a brief explanation as to why we approach CPC if people weren't at the meeting. we thought we were in the spirit of CPC, community preservation, and using all the units as affordable. But CPC had a point, and we listened, and I heard that, they wanted to restrict the units at some point, which we were not averse to, but just not now. We want to find the best formula going forward in the operation of the building. So we feel at this time it'd be prudent to be, and I'm not using the word derogatorily, hamstrung as far as what we could do with the restrictions. And we heard everybody who spoke up about CPC funding. So we think it's in the best interest of the town, CPC at this point in time, to maybe at some point come back and revisit it. If it's feasible. We're hoping, Steve, that the building in and of itself is a success, but we want to find the best way. Where we thought we were in the CPC and hoping that we were, purview was that genuinely preservation, but workforce housing, local preference, 4 of the units are deeded affordable. And one thing that we were thinking of is that even though all the units qualify as adding to our inventory, any owner does not have to do that. They have to deed restrict the 4, whereas you still have 13 units hanging out there that could be used as market, even though they qualify and they count. Our thoughts were leaning more towards, and I use the word loosely to a degree, but preservation, as far as keeping people in Cohasset that may not be able to afford to, or some of our workforce, teachers, firefighters, police. But we don't have a formula yet exactly. So at this point in time, we may revisit, but we will not be using CPC funding. We're asking for it at town meeting. And that's why we are hoping still that we get the support, obviously, of the majority of the town, because I think it's a very viable project. And I think me personally, I'm not speaking, but I think that it would be a benefit to the town of Cohasset at this point in time. You earmarked, we've heard, and I'll throw this out there, maybe and I apologize if it's not something for discussion. The concerns about Old Town Hall. We have put away $500,000 towards that stabilization. And what to do with Town Hall is really what we're doing. We want to preserve the old Town Hall, but we can't come up with something completely concrete until we know what happens with this building.
Right.
And that's a difficult, it kind of puts, paints us into a box, but it's not for lack of concern about Highland Avenue, because that concern is there. I could tell you what we envision, what we could hope for is a place that we use as an old town hall for voting purposes, community events, things like that. But we could not come up with something, without costing the town money, which may not come to fruition, depending on where this goes. So we're hoping that we all work together. We hope we have the support of this project, and we're hoping that it will be a benefit to the town. But when we find out the formula, the best way going forward, we may revisit CPC. We don't know, but and it may just take off on itself. But we've got to find out, because it is an untried project. It's new to the town and it's new to us, and we're hoping, down the road. And I do understand, so I want to speak to the whole trust, is that if there was anyone that felt left out or anything like that, the apologies are there. It just, everything happened so fast. It was not, a purposeful thing. It was just weekly meetings, executive sessions. So it was not for a lack of respect to any of these committees. I want to emphasize that. It just, that hit the field so fast that we tried to cobble it all together and as quickly as we could, because I think personally that if it's a project that's lost, I think it's kind of lost forever. But and then we start from ground zero again, and we're trying to address all those key points in one Pleasant. We think will address quite a few of the needs of the town. We hope.
Thank you for the update. I appreciate it. And as you all may recall, town meeting is on the 13th, Monday night. Ted, you'll be in Cape Town, right? You're not gonna be here.
Yeah, that's right, unfortunately.
All right, fair enough. So town, in any case, the 13th is town meeting. There are quite a few items on the warrant that bear attention. This is obviously a big one. On the administrative side, next meeting date, December 13. That's again a Wednesday. So we're doing a pretty good job staying consistent. We have minutes to approve from last meeting, October 11th. Has everybody looked at them, reviewed them? Good with the accuracy?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, of course you are, Ted, because you found this girl. I have to say, this is the most up to date I've ever seen minutes.
No, not me. It wasn't me, but
This is,
Cindy's got
Oh,
her
Cindy,
hand.
was that you?
Yeah.
well, working with the town human resources officer is
Listen,
the person who found it.
I appreciate it. This is incredible. I love to see it. So,
Steve, I do have a question. Can I,
go right ahead.
I wanted to raise something, particularly with Cassandra, related to 1 Pleasant Street, because I have been attending all of the select board meetings since we were all there at October 24th. And I know we had raised a lot of questions from the trust, detailed sorts of questions. And I see a lot of the work that's being done by particularly Michelle Leary, reaching out to property managers, diving into more of the details that a lot of us had concerns about. And at last night's meeting, Michelle put together, all I have is a hard copy, but she said that she would send these are just some of the pro forma, or looking at the rates and so forth of the units that will be put up for market, relating to what Paul had said before, that right now they don't want to deed restrict them, but in the future there may be the opportunity to do so, whereas you can't go the other direction. You can't undeed restrict, but you can add them down the road. So I'm just asking Cassandra, when she prepares, she was going to send those to me with a little more details and some of the assumptions behind them. I think it would be useful for the whole trust membership to have access to the kind of information that she's been presenting and putting forward at the select board as we move forward potentially into the spring or so, looking at these units, hopefully in conjunction with the town administrators, the select board, CPC, or whatever may come of it.
Sure. I mean, if you can distribute that, Cassandra, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, I owe Michelle a call after this meeting. And this morning, Cindy, she did ask for your email, so I know that she is planning on sending it to you.
Okay.
So I'll just ask that she CC me on that email, and then I can forward the information to the rest of the trust members.
And the other thing that she offered, because I spent a bit of time with her after the meeting last night, is that she has been in contact with a local woman who's part of the largest, I guess, housing managers in the area or in the country even, just gaining more information, trying to figure out what the pitfalls are going forward if the town should take over 1 Pleasant Street and be hiring property managers and such. And she offered to include me in the call so that I would understand better what they're looking at. Can you also, is it possible to distribute that to other board members who may be interested, or other housing trust members who may be interested?
The information that she gets from the woman?
Either to participate in the call,
I see.
or share the information from that discussion.
Depending on when the call takes place, if other members wanted to participate, I would likely have to post a public meeting.
Okay.
Because you would be discussing something.
Even if we're just listening in?
I think that anytime you're gathering a quorum together for the same purpose, there's probably a contemplative action where there. Kara's, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think if you're going to have a quorum and you're talking about something that is, possibly within the realm of your authority or interest as a trust, you should post it as a public meeting to be safe.
I'm not saying that we're likely to have a quorum if there one other person who was interested in listening in or finding the information. Would that,
I think it's fair to ask for the information for the trust members broadly, but it's also at the same time the chairman's requirement that they respond back to Cassandra with their intent to attend. And Cassandra, if that intent is 4 or exceeds 4, then either we've got to cull it down or post a meeting. All right, so how's that? Ted Carr?
I just am so sorry to interrupt the discussion. I see just recently a note here about this meeting, Miss Bora of Wynn Properties meeting today at 2. Says we can ask any questions in advance. If anybody, those questions can go to Michelle. There's a note that came out, it looks like last evening.
that's the meeting, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't have any such note, but then again, I said I haven't been able to get into my town email for 2 years, so that could explain a lot.
Yeah, I also don't have that note. But
I'll send this back. I'll send this back to you here. It went to interesting. Didn't go to everybody. It went to like a subset of people: Brian Host, Paul Kearse, Rob Hillman, Rob Jeffers, Mary McGoldrick, Chris Senior, Jean Dippold.
Who's it from? Who's the sender?
From Michelle Leary. And
That's an interesting subset.
yeah, it just says that there's a meeting. Cindy's correct. Wynn Properties, for this one lady, has 14,000 units under management, all in the area of housing affordability. She's offered to speak with our committee. I don't know what committee that is, but it's just listed as affordable housing consultant. Available today at 2 p.m. Let's see, Ellen Marr is not available. Yeah, so I guess could Cindy just listen in and see what they say, or?
Well, on solo, I'm assuming that's plausible.
Yeah. Cindy, do you have time?
Yes. I plan to. I just wanted to be sure that other members might have, maybe one other member might have the option if they were interested.
I will tell you right now, Cindy, today at 2 is not possible.
Yeah, that's fine. You never know.
Yeah, no, but please.
And I think the more information that we have and recognize what the town administrators are doing in order to answer a lot of the questions that we generated about how would this thing be managed would be useful to understand.
Right. I listen, I appreciate your initiative, and feel welcome to report back to all of us what you have learned.
Okay.
Okay, Paul Grady.
I could just speak in full disclosure as a select board member and vice chair. I didn't get it.
Okay.
I would have told you all about it.
No, I don't doubt it. I mean,
I was just gonna say, I was like, Paul, you're correct. You did not get the note.
I was reading the list. I was listening to the list, going, "Wow, that's a."
Didn't want you guys to think I was spying in and logging up information.
No.
That's all.
No.
I'm just kidding.
All right. In the interest of time, if we're done with this topic, can we move along to the minutes from October 11? And again, let me reiterate: if we're done with this topic, if there are further comments, speak up. All righty. Minutes from October 11. I can tell you, I personally read them, and I am willing to entertain a motion for approval.
I'm a motion we approve the minutes from October 11th.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Thanks, Rob Henry. Motion and a second by roll. Let's go through this once again. Paul, I believe, Paul, you can vote them, but it's up to you.
If you guys are content, if you guys are happy with them, I'm fine with them. I didn't see them, so I didn't want to throw my myself into the mix, but I'm happy to expedite it and say
I'll come-
I vote aye.
All right, so we have an affirmative vote from Paul Grady. All right, Ted Carr,
Yes, aye.
Cindy Matheson,
Cindy Matheson, aye.
Rob Henry,
Rob Henry, aye.
and Steve Gomer, aye. Okay, minutes are approved. Last but not least on the agenda is the condominium trust, the HOA invoice. So I'm going to hand this back to Cassandra. Cassandra, fire away.
Yeah, so South Shore Habitat, I'm actually gonna pull it up on the screen, that way we're all on the same page. So South Shore Habitat has issued the condo association fees. They did send one invoice for up until January, but because the town cannot pay for something that has not been or has not happened yet, I spoke with accounting and they recommend that you do two separate votes. One to approve August through November, which is essentially everything that has happened to date. And then also take a separate vote for December, which would not be expended until December hits. But that way we're not held up by, your December meeting and then being backlogged. And then at your December meeting, you would vote to pay the January portion of the invoice. For Rob, who I don't think has a visual right now, it is $256.13 per month, which includes taxes, electric, and the community area fees, which would include repairs that need to be done. So all of that is going into the HOA pot.
The overall, let me go back. So the only question I have, Cassandra, on this is not about the payment, but rather about repairs that have gone that are embedded now in this, which I have to assume is like an assessment.
So it's my understanding that they sort of, and perhaps Karis could correct me if I'm wrong, but they kind of take an assessment of like, this would what it would be if repairs needed to be done, and kind of take that money initially so that if, say the gutters need to be repaired and the association votes to do so, they can just take that money automatically and it's not a separate cost.
No, that's fine. So if I understand what you're saying, Cassandra, and Karis, again, if you have some knowledge on the specifics here, please kick it in. But if these fees, the association fees currently are comprised by taxes and insurance and a reserve funding, right? Which sounds, Cassandra, like what you're describing. Then I don't have any further questions on them. My understanding from the original description was that there were specific projects that had been voted and that were wrapped into these fees. And my question was, by whom were they voted? If the previous owner voted them, that's fine. Nothing we can do about that.
I don't believe that there are specific projects that have been voted.
Okay, so this could be, and just for confirmation, right? Would you determine with Beth Lyons if what she's describing is a reserve funding, right? Which is common for an HOA.
Yes.
And if so, how much of the fees on a monthly basis goes to reserve? And that's just for a matter of our understanding as a trust. It's not to object or anything like that, but rather to make sure that we understand what the financial structure is for this particular piece of property while we own it, because we're also going to have to describe it to a future owner.
Yes, I can do that.
Okay, thank you. Having said that, the fact of the matter is anything that we're looking at August, November is due and payable by the HOA or by us to the HOA. And I have no idea if the condominium trust allows for such a thing, but I do know from my own condominium, being late gets expensive. So unless someone objects to the amount or our base knowledge of the amount, the chair would move that we vote to pay the HOA fees due and payable currently, August to November, for $256.13 per month for each of those 4 months.
Am I allowed to second it?
You are allowed to second it.
Then I'll second the chair's motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Once again, we'll do this by roll call vote. Paul Grady.
Aye.
Okay, Rob Henry.
Rob Henry, aye.
Ted Carr.
Ted Carr, aye.
Cindy Matheson.
Cindy Matheson, aye.
Steve Gomer, aye. All right, now for the December and January future payable fees, the chair further moves that we vote to pay those when due, subject to having a thorough understanding of the fees composition. And that's the part that Cassandra is going to investigate.
And I'll also hopefully be able to give you some light on that when I take a look at the condo docs.
Okay, thank you, Karis. Much appreciated. All right. So again, we have a motion and awaiting a second.
Second.
All right, thank you, Ted. Once again, we'll go through the roll. Paul Grady.
Paul Grady, aye.
All right. Cindy Matheson.
Cindy Matheson, aye.
Okay, Rob Henry.
Rob Henry, aye.
Ted Carr.
Ted Carr, aye.
And Steve Gomer, aye. Okay, so motion passes unanimously. Thank you both. Thank you all for your attention to that. And unless we have additional topics to discuss that haven't been anticipated, and Ted Carr has one.
We don't say it enough, and I want to especially thank Cassandra and Karis for putting up with us. We ask a lot of both of you, and we are very, very appreciative of everything that you do for us. And I know that putting up with Steve Gomer is a full-time job sometimes. Oh, I'm sorry, he's still here on the call. My bad. Anyway, but I just very importantly, thank you both very much for your guidance and your help with this committee. It's important work, and we're all very appreciative.
I second that. And,
Indeed.
and I also second the part about putting up with Steve Gomer. He is a total pain in the ass.
Hey, on that point, Steve Gomer, did you get I returned your call late last week.
I did, Karis.
Okay,
It wasn't so
that's
urgent
fine.
that I didn't think we needed to talk or pull you away from what you were doing.
Okay.
It's also special town meeting season, so you can be pretty well occupied.
Yep. Night 7 of town meetings for me was last night. Night 6 the night before, and I have one more, and then I'm done next Monday. So it's been busy, but yeah, whenever you need, Steve, just give me a buzz.
Will do. We wish
Okay.
we wish you success with the last one. And Cassandra,
Thanks.
once again, just to single you out, again, Ted's words could be echoed by each of us. Thank you very much. And we continue to ask so much of you, and we appreciate you tackling it with grace. All right. We have no further topics, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, I think I heard a motion and a second all at once. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, again by roll. Cindy Matheson,
Cindy Matheson, aye.
Rob Henry,
Rob Henry, aye.
Ted Carr.
Ted Carr, aye.
Where are you, Paul Grady?
Right here.
Oh, okay, I just didn't see all of a sudden. Paul, before you vote, once again, welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. All right, now you vote.
All right, aye.
Okay, Steve Gomer, aye. We are now adjourned. Thank you all very much. Paul Grady, good luck on Monday.
And
Well, thank you. Good luck to everybody.
Thanks.
thanks, Rob Henry. I'll call you in a few minutes.
Bye-bye, guys.
All right.
Take care.